Okay, so the recording has started. Great. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the fourth event of the Impact Investor Circle series, which was launched in November last year under the theme Improving Access to Capital for SMEs in Africa in general, with a specific focus on Zambia. Zambia, as was reiterated at the recent Prospero Impact Investor Roadshow, is aspiring to become a regional impact investing hub through the work we are all doing through the Global Steering Group National Advisory Board for Impact Investing Zambia with the support of Prospero Zambia. We have a lot of ground to cover over the next hour, and we would like to upfront thank all of you who have zoomed in for your attendance today. I'm particularly happy to announce that we had more than 120 people who registered to attend this event via LinkedIn. This is our highest number to date. And of course, it puts us in a little bit of a predicament since our Zoom subscription only allows us to have 100 participants. Hence, for those of you who are unable to join the live session, we still hope that you will be able to watch the recording, which will be uploaded on 4IP's YouTube channel. Additionally, will also be uploaded on the Prospero YouTube channel and SIIA's YouTube channel. Let me quickly present the house rules. Please turn off your microphones whenever you're not speaking throughout the event in order not to disturb the speakers and the other listeners. Do feel free to use the chat box to raise questions so that those questions we can't answer due to time constraint can be addressed after the event by email or by a bilateral call, depending on the nature of the comment or the question raised. Okay. Basically, what we are talking about during the series is how to get capital to micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises operating in Africa, which are employing between 5 to 250 people with the potential and ambition for growth, and who are typically seeking financing ranging from 20K, as we explored last month with Challenges Zambia, up to and beyond $2 million, as we will explore next month with our webinar featuring Goodwill Investment and Bongo Hive. Our objective is that this Impact Investor Circle series can stimulate increased collaboration amongst non-traditional social investing partners, lead to the adoption of innovative finance approaches that would mobilize enough capital from the 250 trillion global private capital markets to finance the SDGs between now and 2030. The aim of this convening and forthcoming virtual events are to increase collaboration and to enable social impact investors to deploy more capital effectively across the African continent, to transfer best practices and present African impact investing opportunities to Swiss-based impact investors. This map that you see in front of you aims to support and enhance collaboration between organizations active in sustainable finance in and around Geneva. Following a public consultation, 248 sustainable finance actors are identified in the second edition of the Geneva Sustainable Finance Mapping, including 81 dedicated solely to sustainable finance, 138 private actors, and 97 international organizations, foundations, and associations. Now more than ever, sustainable finance actors must join forces and work together to develop solutions in response to global challenges, including those we are currently facing of our global financial center, in Geneva, we are facing. Geneva is uniquely positioned to address the urgent challenges crystallized by the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals, thanks to its one-of-kind ecosystem, which is comprised of a global financial center, a hub for multilateral diplomacy, world-class universities, and forward-looking policymakers. Thanks to a collaboration between Sustainable Finance Geneva, the state of Geneva, and the International Institute of Sustainable Finance and the UN SDG Lab, the breadth and depth of this unique ecosystem is now accounted for in this map, which leads me to the next slide, which is I'm happy to introduce my fellow members of the Swiss Impact Investing Association, Mrs. Svetlana Borens. Banerjee, please, over to you, Svetlana.
Thanks, Christian. Thanks a lot. Could you please allow me to share the screen, because I wanted just to make a very brief presentation. And as long you're making it, so hi to everyone, and I'm really happy to be part of today's event as a SIIA board member. And for those who don't know what is SIIA doing, so SIIA is an association, non-profit association based in Switzerland at Zug. And what we do is we empower investors and entrepreneurs to engage for impact investment. We raise awareness about the topic, and we are the platform where impact investing can be practiced. And one of the offerings of SIIA is also Chamomile platform, where you can engage as an investor, as project. So I will be briefly presenting you the Chamomile platform. But maybe a few words more about SIIA. So SIIA exists since 5 years. We organize a yearly summit here in Switzerland. It has been always amazing. World leaders coming to our summits, financial institutions, private investors, amazing project. So last year, due to Corona, we still made it virtually. So for all those who haven't been in our summit, please join us this year. It's not yet announced, but keep updated and visit our website siia.ch. But let's now briefly go to Chamomile, as I only have 5 minutes as per schedule, and I try to really make it in 3 minutes. Can you see my screen, guys?
Yes, it's fine, Svetlana.
Okay, all right. So Chamomile Impact Community is part of SIIA offering, right? So if you become member of SIIA, you will get access to Chamomile, and you will be able to engage whoever you are, investor, project, or maybe you are just a newcomer. Everyone is welcome. So you can actually even now go briefly to chamomile.ch and see how it looks like. But what it's about. Of course, Chamomile was created to help achieving sustainable development goals. So this is our mission, and we would like to get people into action, right? So impact investment, for those who don't know, it's investment in innovative companies which provide, beside financial returns, social and environmental impact. The market is already $800 billion US dollars, of course, not just $800 US dollars, and it's growing. So it's now the best time to get into the market if you're not there yet, because we see that the future of finance will be sustainable, or it will cease to exist. So you are at the right moment there when impact investing will become the new normal, and you can be part of that. What is the challenge in impact investing, right? What is SIIA also doing? So we are trying to raise awareness, provide accessible education, and as there is no global impact community out there yet, this is exactly what we try to achieve with Chamomile. So Chamomile is a platform where you can unite the ecosystem, develop it further, and achieve sustainable development goals. This is how it looks like if you go to chamomile.ch, and it's very simple. You can join the platform for free, right? And we name it also Swiss multi-tool, as we have a lot of modules such as investing. So if you're an investor looking for project, you can source deals. If you are a project looking for investors or experts to engage, the same, you can find that on our platform. But we have much more to offer. So you can publish your vacancies, or if you're looking for job and sustainable investment, the same, you can publish it there. You can check our events. You can share your knowledge on the forums, conduct polls, and even do contests of social enterprises. What else is there? So basically, just in a nutshell, what we want to achieve is that people can connect, they can learn about impact investing, and most important, that they can engage. So it's all about action. And of course, if you are investors, that you can also invest in inspiring projects to achieving sustainable development goals. Our members, actually, the numbers are a little bit old. We have already more than 400 members. We launched the platform recently, a couple of months back. And among those, we have already such people like Prince Michael from Liechtenstein, We have a family Brennick Myers, we have European Investment Bank, Climate Change Office, we have former Prime Minister Mr. Balkanande, and many more are coming. So you will be able to meet those people as well on the platform. It's one of the reasons, of course, also to join if you want to be in impact investing. Our team, I will skip this slide. You can check my LinkedIn if you're interested to know more. We also have a lot of ambassadors, of course, and Dennis today, thanks. You are also one of our ambassadors to make impact investing the new normal. So that's great. You know, people, it's very important that we all unite the forces to achieve SDGs and to make impact investing the new normal in financial industry. So it's great that we have such amazing support, a lot of partners, and that's basically it in a nutshell. So it's free to get into action, become the member of SIIA, and then you will get access to Chamomile, where we all can engage for action. So thanks a lot for this time. And if you have any questions, you can write to us, to Christian, and Christian can forward any questions regarding Chamomile.
Thank you very much, Svetlana. It was very interesting, and I hope that all of you down in Lusaka have seen the usefulness of this platform in integrating our ecosystem in Lusaka and beyond, of course. So,
and maybe just a little secret which I want to reveal: we are about to update also the platform, and in a couple of weeks, the platform will look even better, even more user-friendly. So don't miss it and join Chamomile.
Fantastic, great. Thanks a lot, Svetlana. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so it's over to my colleague, Mr. Calvin Chitangala, Managing Partner of Impactpreneur Africa Limited.
Thank you very much, Christian, and a great presentation there on Chamomile, Svetlan. To pick it up from Svetlan, so next slide, please, Christian, opening slide. So to pick it up from Svetlan, as IPA at this platform, we are looking to share what our strategic outlook looks like. That's for 2021. And next slide, Christian. So just to reintroduce who we are and what we're doing. Opening slide, Christian. Great. So this is a dashboard that gives you on-spot information of who we are and where we're coming from as IPA, and probably just to introduce to you who's behind IPA. You will notice from the information that we have institutional representation coming through from the 4IP Group and IIX, and also other co-founding partners are Haggai and myself. So IPA is pretty much a spin-off of what was previously known as the IIX chapter. And then the IIX chapter was, next slide, Christian. The IIX chapter was locally present for the past 3 years in the Lusaka space, actively developing the ecosystem and creating awareness. So generally, just to give you a quick overview, I'm just giving you a quick glance through the introductory side of IPA. So over the past few years, these have been some of our key milestone accomplishments. So we, of course, did start off with ideation stage in early 2017, where we got to engage with the ecosystem. 2018, we got to, of course, establish who is in the ecosystem and issues around developing a task force that seeks to establish the National Advisory Board. And then over the years, you will notice that much of IPA's work in Zambia has been around impact awareness and just driving the conversation of impact investments. Then at 2020, we are looking to spin off into impact advisory, focused advisory that seeks to develop the ecosystem from an impact perspective. So fortunately enough, one of the first works that we did was last year, where we deliberately, where we were actively engaged in an impact assessment. That's on behalf of the CDC impact investors in the sub-Saharan Africa region. Next slide, please, Christian. Great. So this is the slide of my presentation, and my apologies if I dashed through the first slides. I'm trying to keep this under 5 minutes. So I was hoping to spend much time on this slide because this is what we are looking to get our hands engaged in this year. And for anyone who might not get all the information from here, please, this information will be readily available on our LinkedIn page as well. So from an outlook, you will notice that for this year, we are looking to actively get engaged in 4 strategic objectives. And of course, at the top being we are looking to continuously promote impact awareness in the region. And one of the ways that we are looking to do that is through a platform like this one, where we have impact investor circles. And these are led, of course, by Christian, who's part of the IPA network. And of course, we're looking to have at least one every month, and we can get to engage and get to connect from these platforms. And other strategic objectives aligned with other strategic actions aligned with objective number 1 are that of the impact investing trainings and the school to the schools, which is to the students, and also the capacity building to the enterprises. So around this, what we have secured is what we would call a cost structure that seeks to be tailored to the Zambian ecosystem. So we are looking to deploy this learning opportunity to students who are present in local universities here, such as the UNZA Graduate School of Business. We've begun and we've secured collaborative talks with them. That's my timer. We began and secured collaborative talks with them, and we are looking to conclude on this. Unfortunately, Svetlana is here because she's part of the people who are driving this agenda. And then other objectives you will notice, such as we are actively looking to get engaged this year also in terms of facilitating and raising of impact capital in Zambia. And this is mainly around the angle of pipeline development and also just deal facilitation. Other objectives that we're looking to get engaged in this year are things around impact measurement and also just developing of impact strategies for impact enterprises. So you notice that the theme around our strategic objectives for this year is primarily advisory work that is anchored towards impact investments. That's been, of course, the theme of our past, that's been the theme last year, and we want to continue with that theme this year because we have made a firm resolve that that's what the market needs at this point, given that we've successfully done much awareness. So I think in the interest of time, this is where my presentation ends, and I hope I've communicated well in just letting you know what our strategic outlook looks like for this year. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you so much, Calvin. Very interesting and very promising from a bias point of view, of course. Let's move on to the next presentation. That will be from Hagai Tumba, who would say a few words about this survey. Hagai, over to you.
Thank you, Christian. Can you hear me all?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh yeah, thank you. So I just want to tell about a little about what we're doing in the Zambia National Advisory Board for Impact Investment with our collaboration with Prospero Zambia. We'll be talking shortly, as well as SDS. So the National Advisory Board in Zambia, which is a membership of a part of the Global Steering Group for Impact Investment, we're continuing our work this year with strengthening our impact investment ecosystem. The NAB's vision is to see Zambia as a regional hub for impact investment in Southern Africa. And to help realize this vision, we we would want to gain the better understanding of the global investor knowledge and as well as perception of Zambia as an impact investment location. So in that regard, we actually launched out today a survey, an impact investor survey, obviously targeting asset managers and as well as asset owners. And generally investors who are got interest in investing or who have been investing in Zambia or would like to invest in Zambia. And also Africa is like their target sort of regional, their geographical focus. So the survey is really basically assessing the perception as well as awareness of impact investment opportunities in Zambia. And if you would like to participate, which we are encouraging you for all the investors present on this call, I'll be putting my email address in the chat box. If you could just send us a note if you are interested in participating. There are a lot of incentive for participating. One of the things that we're doing is that we will be giving out a pair of tickets to the Global Steering Group for Impact Investment Summit, which will be scheduled later this year. It's one of the largest summits for impact investors around the globe. So it should give us more motivation to participate, and we'll be interested to have your views on how you think about Zambia as an impact investment location. So that's all from me. I'll be putting my email address in the chat box for investors on the call who are interested in participating. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hagai. And now we come to the main part of today's event. The first part, as you saw from the agenda, we'll be discussing issues pertaining to how to improve access to capital for SMEs in Africa. And to take us through some of these very important issues, we have the great pleasure of having Mrs. Namaya Moreno Mpikucita Levantnica presenting for us. She's the lead of investment service in Prospero. And I don't know, Namaya, if you have a presentation. Shall I make you the co-host, or do you have any slides you want to share with us?
Yes, please. That would be great, Christian.
Okay. So you are here. Voila. I'm going out. So over to you, Namaya.
Thank you very much. As Christian has said, my name is Namaya Mpikucita Levantnica, and I am the Prospero sector lead for investment services. I'm very grateful for you giving me the opportunity to talk about Prospero and our work, particularly as it relates to access to finance. And I will very quickly go through what Prospero is doing and how we work. Prospero, for those of you that may not know, is a UKaid-funded private sector development company that's designed to incentivize investment in innovation. And this is through changing the way market systems work. At Prospero, we mainly target 4 high-growth priority sectors. This is food and agriculture, mining and mining services. We also work in tourism and hospitality, and underpinning those 3 sectors, we have work in investment services and business services. Obviously, my focus for today will be around the work we're doing in investment services, but before I do that, I'll just give you a brief overview of what we are doing in the other sectors and how it interlinks with the work that we're doing in investment services, because they're very closely connected. So in food and agriculture, for instance, our main goal really is to increase competitiveness and the value of Zambian food products in end consumer markets, while in mining and mining services, we're working to increase sustainability and inclusivity of the impact in terms of mining in Zambia, which, as many of you who might know about Zambia, has been the sector which Zambia's economy has relied on for many, many years. In tourism and hospitality, we continue to work around increasing the value and proportion of tourist revenue captured by local businesses, while with investment services, our work really there is about increasing the sources of impact investment finance for growth-oriented business. With business services, it's basically a support service sector that works at supporting our 3 core sectors of food and agriculture, mining, and tourism. So within all of our core sectors, obviously for us to deliver the work that we do and for us to ensure that we're effective, we work through an initiative-based approach. So each of our core sectors has specific initiatives with specific goals that we're working towards. For instance, in tourism, we are working around initiatives that support sustainable tourism and conservation. We also do some work around artisanal and natural products and destination development, which looks at specifically developing destinations within Zambia as tourist destinations. In addition to that, in mining, we have 2 main initiatives. Firstly, one around local content and another around local economic development. In food and agriculture, we're focused specifically on the subsectors, including small livestock, fruits and vegetables, and legumes. Under investment services, which is a sector that I will focus my discussion on, we have 4 active initiatives, which I'll go into more details. With business services, we have 2 initiatives, which is around rural hubs, but also supporting business membership organizations that work within our core sectors, because we realize that they're an important element within sort of this ecosystem that we work with. The way that Prospero works, obviously we have 2 bits of Prospero. We have the grants bit of Prospero and also the investment facilitation and promotion work that we do. And both of these elements of our work within Prospero help to increase access to finance. As many of you may know, access to finance is a really big challenge for many businesses around the world, but specifically within Zambia, there are added challenges to having to access finance for businesses, and the opportunities are quite limited. But there's also a real need for businesses to understand what is the most appropriate type of finance that they require depending on where they are in their business cycle. And that needs a lot of education, a lot of engagement, so that businesses don't waste too much time. For example, most businesses will think it's natural, if I need money, I go to the commercial bank, but there are certain things that the bank is looking for, and there are certainly limitations because of the way banks are structured generally, but specifically even in Zambia, the way banks are structured and regulated, their limitations. And so it's really about businesses understanding where they are. So on our grants end of things, the way that we work is we work through intervention partnerships. And intervention partnerships could be a wide range of partnerships that help us deliver our primary mandate, which is obviously around increasing investment, creating jobs, and creating a real sustainable private sector within Zambia. And it can also, it's about partners with private sector players, businesses, it's about partners with different organizations that are also supporting business growth within Zambia. And it can also be partnerships with government and government entities. We have 2 main types of partnerships. The first type of partnership is financial in nature. And in terms of those financial partnerships, that's where we have investment grants that are used to incentivize investment and obviously for many businesses offset some of their risks. In addition to the investment grants, we have technical assistance grants that support technical expertise for primarily businesses as they're designing or implementing specific projects or expanding their businesses, etc. But in addition to the more financial partnerships, we also work with non-financial partnerships. I mean, we have things like facilitation agreements. We could be facilitating linkages to investment. We could be facilitating linkages to supply chains, customers, etc., which is also a really important part of the work that we do. And sometimes often people forget that in addition to grants, we have this non-financial support. And we work with a number of different partners as well through cooperation agreements where we agree to achieve specific objectives and work towards supporting the private sector in one form or another. Like I mentioned as I started speaking, my focus is going to be on the work that we're doing in the investment services sector, simply because obviously for this conversation we are focusing on impact investment, but also that happens to be a passion of mine, and that also happens to be in the area in which I work, specifically in Prospero. This has been alluded to before. Basically, as Prospero, similar to what's NAB vision, the National Advisory Board for Impact Investment vision is, we also have a long-term vision to see Zambia as a regional impact investment hub. And as part of our key strategy, we've basically used the Global Steering Group for Impact Investment model on what makes an area ripe for impact investment, and looking at some of those key areas by doing an assessment of where are the gaps within the Zambian ecosystem. For example, where are the gaps with supply of capital? Where are the gaps on the demand end? Where are the gaps with the businesses that exist within the ecosystem? What about the intermediaries? How are they faring? And then obviously in terms of supporting a conducive impact investment climate, there's also issues around enablers working within the ecosystem, and policies, which are key elements to make things work. So from the Prospero perspective, we do recognize the fact that having Zambia as a regional impact hub is actually quite a difficult task, and there are lots of steps that need to be taken to getting to that point. And for us, our core strategy focuses around starting with Zambia initially and trying to build ourselves in terms of our internal ecosystem, and then eventually getting out there into the surrounding countries and region. But all this work that we do, like I mentioned, is not done through Prospero alone, but through a number of various partnerships that we have with people within the ecosystem. So to address a number of these challenges, what Prospero is doing currently is working through specific initiatives. And you probably saw this in my previous slide, even though I didn't go through the detail at that point. But the first initiative is an initiative we're calling the Impact Investment Ecosystem Initiative. And basically here, our main goal is to strengthen the Zambian impact investment ecosystem by working with various players and really trying to address the challenges within the GSG pillars that I showed you in my earlier slide. And with this work, we are working with the National Advisory Board for Impact Investment. Earlier, Haggai talked about the collaboration we have on an impact climate survey, but that's one of many things that we're doing with the National Advisory Board for Impact Investment. Part of our role really is to work in a collaborative manner with them to sort of also help them to increase their capacity to advocate for pro-impact investment policies, for instance, because obviously the NAB is a relatively nascent organization, but really has a strong mandate and a strong role to play within the impact investment ecosystem. Other things that we are working on with them is around increasing awareness around impact investment opportunities within Zambia, and bringing together players within the ecosystem to open up opportunities for the possibility of increased impact capital flowing through Zambia, which is a key part of our work. So that's kind of one of the initiatives that's more broad in terms of our approach. But obviously within the various pillars, there are specific things that we're doing. For instance, this year we started work on developing and establishing an angel investment network that will hopefully down the line, when it's established, be able to deploy seed capital into early stage businesses, but also provide mentorship support. And it's in collaboration with a number of partners, Mentor Me, Bongo Hive, and the African Business Angels Network. And basically what's happened so far is that we've been able to bring together high net worth individuals who are coming together and saying, look, they've signed up for this angel investment network and are interested in establishing it. And I think that's really been the first hurdle But it's been very encouraging to actually see the number of people or high net worth individuals that are actually interested in becoming part of this network. Obviously, it's a process, but hopefully down as the year progresses, we'll begin to see significant traction beyond just getting these high net worth individuals together, because it's a process. Like I said, there's training for these high net worth individuals. Angel investment in Zambia, yes, that has happened. It's sort of happened haphazardly. We've heard of businesses and aware of businesses that have received some level of angel investment, but it's not really been ever coordinated. So this is an effort to coordinate those efforts, but also to create a system where it works for both the party receiving the investment and the party that is offering the investment, and having clear terms for that level of investment. So this is one that I'm really excited about. It's got some level of risk, but I think ultimately that the payoff will be great, because it'll go a long way in terms of building the pipeline of SMEs and businesses that can eventually be able to leverage more commercial financing outside of these local high net worth individuals. To build on that, we are also supporting local funds. You may know that we don't really have very many local funds that are based in Zambia, and some of them are struggling with having the right sort of systems in place, but also are struggling with fundraising and building funds that they can then invest into local businesses. So we're coming in as Prospero to help with technical assistance. And this year, for instance, we're working already with 2 of these local funds to strengthen their internal systems, but also strengthen their capacity to be able to fundraise outside of Zambia, to be able to get the right sort of investment that they can invest in other businesses. And as part of this sort of technical assistance, there are also issues around operational self-sustainability in the long run, and being able to build a pipeline of investable businesses. So this pipeline issue keeps coming up over and over again. So that Zambia, if we're saying Zambia is going to be a hub, we need to be able to have businesses within our hub that are ready for investment, and this is also part of the process. And finally, our last initiative, by no means the least, is one that we have been working on for a while, which is the Growth Initiative. It hasn't always been called the Growth Initiative. In fact, this was sort of Prospero's entry point into impact investment. And in here, we're basically seeking to help increase impact into investment into Zambian growth businesses, and helping these businesses to become investment ready, and then linking them to appropriate impact investment networks. Obviously, through this process, one of the things that we do is support through technical assistance post-revenue businesses that are looking to raise investments above $500,000, and either in form of debt or equity. And part of Prospero support includes SME identification, which is why, for instance, previously we had a couple of weeks ago, a week or 2 ago, we had the roadshow. We also look at specifically investment readiness, either one-to-one technical assistance through our pool of vetted investment advisors. Also, this year we've introduced some more generic investment readiness support for those that might be a little bit earlier on in investment. And then there are also different things, where we can support training workshops as well. We've done a few of these through various partnerships and also events. In the second half of this, I'll talk more in detail about our partnership with Impact Capital Africa under this initiative and how that works. For instance, we've partnered with them on having the annual Impact Capital Africa event that brings together investors with businesses, but also with people who are interested in the ecosystem. And other events we've done, for instance, include road shows, or we've even done some interesting awareness creation meetings with various chambers. And that has really helped to really drive the impact investment agenda from our perspective. And so just as I sort of wrap up this section of my presentation, I wanted to depict this slide, which shows you how Prospero as a whole works. So I mentioned initially the grants bit of things, which also helps with access to finance and technical assistance, etc. We view that bit of our work as really part of our pipeline building efforts. And obviously with grant support can only go so far. It doesn't matter who's offering the grant, whether it's Prospero or somebody else. But there comes a point in the business lifestyle where they then need to really expand and grow, and they need to then leverage more commercial financing. So through building a pipeline from our grants, but also from other avenues, then these businesses can sort of travel in their life cycle and be able to, say, for instance, even be able to attract earlier stage investment from angel investment, or even from some of the local funds, where they're able to then get investment to help their business grow, and ultimately, hopefully through the growth initiative, where we partner with people like with organizations like ICA can then be able to leverage more larger ticket sizes, and then we then begin to see real growth. So that's basically how we work, and obviously underpinning all of that, we still have all the work that we're doing within the ecosystem to make sure that all that is happening, and whoever needs to come together is coming together. So I guess that sort of ends the first part of my presentation. I'm at this point, I will hand back over to Christian in case there are any questions or comments or discussion points. I'll be more than happy to engage with everybody on the call.
Yes, thank you so much, Namaya. Excellent presentation, and please allow me to use my prerogative as chairperson of this event to congratulate Prospero for what I think was a fantastic virtual roadshow that you organized last month. I've been spending the last few days sharing some of the many videos that you have uploaded on your YouTube channel with my own network, and I will highly encourage those of you who have not, were unable to participate in the event to listen to some of those videos. They are very informative, and you give you a great insight into the Zambian impact investing ecosystem that Namaya has managed to synthesize in her 50 minutes presentation. So thank you very much for that. Any burning questions or clarifications at this stage before we embark on the second part of the presentation? I can't see if there's any raising hand, but if anyone has a question, please make it a short question, and also please introduce yourself and your affiliation. Okay, while people are thinking, I might just raise one quick question. Now, I was curious, looking at the history of the great work that PEP Zambia has been doing, your predecessor organization, and now Prospero Zambia. What I notice is what are maybe the biggest change that you have seen of the impact investing ecosystem in Zambia in the last couple of years? I mean, for personally listening to your presentation, what struck me the most was this new angel investor network, which is something that I think has been missing, and I was very happy to hear that this is now fermenting and actually might be materializing in a near future. But from your own perspective, having been a part of this since the very beginning, what would you highlight as maybe the biggest improvement? Is it the number of impact investors? Are the number of deals? Are the deal sizes increasing? What would you highlight as maybe the key change that has happened in the last couple of years?
Thank you very much, Christian. So from my perspective, I think a lot has happened over the last couple of years. Firstly, I have definitely noticed a growing interest in this whole area of impact investment, right? And beyond just the number of deals. I'll give you practical examples. For instance, we have had situations where we've had regulators such as SEC, for instance, gain a lot of interest in some of the very specific elements of this, and as a result are interested in developing various policies, and have even started that road, and have began to engage with even people like ourselves as Prospero to see how they could come up with policies that actually promote more this type of impact investment into companies, into Zambian companies. And I think that's a really positive thing that has come out of it, because that having the right sort of policies can really help to facilitate things, especially if the policies are being implemented. Another thing on the policy side is just an interesting note. I had an opportunity to read the draft MSME policy, the government policy. And I actually noticed that for the first time when they were talking about access to finance, impact investment was mentioned as an avenue through which businesses could actually get investment. So I think that's very positive. Obviously, in terms of the global picture and impact investment, I think there's been a change with everything that's happened around COVID. And I think there's been need for obviously new thinking in terms of the way that the various parties, whether it's investors or SMEs, think around increasing impact investment happening, because obviously certain things have been made more difficult. For instance, just yesterday we had a call around with certain investors. This was organized by ICA. We also collaborated on this, but it was very interesting to see some of the things that have had to change as a result of not being able to physically meet with companies, etc., and things like that. So that's also changing. But I think as a whole, there's been a really positive outlook in terms of just increased interest in impact investment, and increased players even in the impact investment space in Zambia. And working in this space, you kind of see people who are sort of also getting their feet wet, and trying to see how they could be players in the space, even those that were doing different things in supporting businesses.
Well, that's fantastic. I hope that the members of the asset managers and asset owners who are members of the Swiss Impact Investing Association are taking note of that. This is the moment. This is the right time. Zambia is open for business and investment. So, and with this presentation that you've already given, hopefully that should give more investors an incentive to explore the opportunities. So, any other questions before we start with the second part of today's event, which is going to look at the work that Prospero Zambia is doing in terms of building an investment-ready pipeline of Zambian impact enterprises. If there's no burning issues, there will be another Q&A after the second part. So maybe we can, in the interest of time, since we're a little bit behind schedule, maybe we can just start the second part. So again, over to you, Mrs. Mbikusita Levanika. I love your family name, so that's why I wanted to say it again. Over to you.
And you said it very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of this next segment, I've sort of led into it by the general information about Prospero's, but I'll focus specifically on our growth initiative. And this is where I'll talk about our partnership with ICA, but also focus on what Prospero is doing around investment readiness, which I think is a very key component in trying to get more investment into Zambia. So we've been partnering with Impact Capital Africa since 2018, and under this growth initiative. Of course, earlier it wasn't necessarily called that, but now we're called the Growth Initiative. And basically ICA is an organization, and I'm glad to see someone from ICA there, Deb. ICA is an organization that helps facilitate capital flow into Zambia. And they do this through a range of activities, including research, and they now have an online platform called Impact Starter. They also do a number of events, etc., which is why they sort of made a perfect partner for Prospero in this work around facilitating impact investment into Zambia. And I think basically their vision and the way that they work aligns very well with what we're doing. So with that being said, within this partnership, a lot of Prospero's role is mainly around the SME side. And on the SME side, we realize that within the demand side, there are a few gaps, right? Not all SMEs are ready for investment, but these gaps can be filled. And that's the role we've tried to play in terms of getting businesses investment ready. We first of all identify them through a number of ways. We use our networks, we use conversations, we use various organizations that are working with businesses, we use outreach events such as the outreach event Christian made reference to, which like the Impact Investment Roadshow that we had 2 weeks ago, as an example. But then within that work, obviously a key part of it is really supporting the businesses to become impact investment ready. And I'll walk through that as I go through this. So under the growth initiative, what are we looking for? We're looking to work with Zambian-based companies, mostly companies that are registered in Zambia, but at least those that are also working within Zambia as a core part of their mandate. In addition to that, which is something I guess these are the things that would be familiar to those investors on the call, is we are looking at companies that have a strong management team, because obviously that's what really drives the business. And the idea is great, the work that they're doing is great, but the team really puts together everything and makes sure the business is going forward. Another criteria we look at for companies that work under the growth initiative is those companies that are post-revenue. So basically companies that have some sort of track record. And of course, there are instances where we have exceptions to the rule. For instance, if we have a more experienced management team that brings together experience that actually makes sense for the business that they're proposing. But those are more exceptions than rules. And of course, because we're talking about impact investment, the companies have to be delivering either a social or environmental return or both, which is absolutely critical. And then I mentioned this one earlier. There's primarily looking at companies that are looking to raise between 500K and $10 million. So what's the process that we follow? Obviously, in the first instance, companies that are locally based can easily contact Prospero to find out more about what the process is. But also, this allows us to have conversations. Also, because we're locally based, we can actually physically visit these companies and really understand what their businesses are and what their needs are, and whether they actually really do need investment, and if they do need investment, at what level, and whether this process that we're going through in partnership with ICA can work. But the other option is companies can always easily access ICA's platform directly if they so wish. But I think when they come through Prospero, we can obviously, if necessary, sieve out companies that are not necessarily the right fit at an earlier stage. And then companies that we say, okay, look, maybe there's something there and would like to collect more information, then the next step for them would be to complete a referral form on the ICA platform, which is Impact Starter. And then from there, if it's found from the information that they complete that they meet the basic criteria, is when they then complete an impact investment readiness assessment tool. And I think this is something that wasn't done previously, but I think fortunately through ICA, of course, ICA has managed to develop a tool, and so far it has come in very handy because one of the things that the tool is able to help is to really identify the specific areas where technical assistance is required, so that when Prospero comes in with the technical assistance, it's not a broad brush technical assistance, but it's really focused on what the specific business needs. So based on that, the report that is generated from that assessment, as Prospero, we then recommend to the businesses or the SMEs, investment advisors who can then provide investment readiness support. And these investment advisors have been vetted. And obviously, in doing this over the years, we've sort of, I think at this point, have come up with a relatively decent pool of investment advisors. And we've learned through the process of what the right sort of advisors would be and that type of thing. So then the SME has the ability to then select the advisor they want to work with. Normally they would meet 2 or 3 advisors that they shortlist, or we help them shortlist through an engagement process with the SME, and they select one. And what Prospero then does is, because we are aware that for some SMEs, not all SMEs, there are some SMEs that can actually afford technical assistance, but for most of the SMEs, this technical assistance from investment advisors is quite costly. So we come in and provide a technical assistance grant. It's not 100% grant because the SMEs do have to pay something towards it. And typically we can pay up to 75% of what the advisors charge, but it actually depends on the business in terms of what percentage we end up contributing towards that advisory work. And this year we've introduced another level of check where, as the advisors work with the SMEs, we also are doing some level of quality assurance just to ensure that at the end of the day, if any documentation is presented, that it's actually ready for investors to take a look at. And I should say most of the technical assistance is around creating documents for the data room, but it can also go beyond that depending on what the business actually requires, and it can go into in-depth feasibility studies, market assessments, etc. And then when the businesses are ready, then they can then formally register onto Impact Starter and complete their online profile. And that's where the investor matchmaking takes place. So in a nutshell, that's how we work with ICA, and that's how we help support businesses that are trying to raise investment. And I think going forward, Prospero will continue to do this. And as we progress, obviously, we're very keen on trying to improve the process, but also trying to improve the type of support that we provide to the various SMEs. And also really keen around continuing to create awareness for SMEs so that they're not frustrated in their efforts in terms of raising finance for their business, but really know where they should be so that that process is much easier and they don't waste too much time knocking on doors that they shouldn't be knocking on for access to finance. That's basically the end of this part. I hope that gives you a good picture of how Prospero works. Obviously, if there's anybody who is interested in contacting Prospero, our details are on there. I'm happy for you to reach out. And at this point, Christian, maybe over to you for any questions or comments from anybody else.
Christian, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, let me once again thank you very much, Namaya, for a very insightful presentation, and especially in terms of what you're doing in terms of facilitating matchmaking between impact enterprises in Zambia and domestic as well as foreign impact investors. Anyone has any questions, please introduce yourself, your affiliation, and keep the question as short as possible so we can take a maximum number of questions. Okay. The onus is on
I have a question actually.
Yes,
Hi,
Deborah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Deborah Wharton. I'm actually from ICA, Impact Capital Africa. I wondered if, Namai, you'd like to expand a little bit on sort of how you see the size of the pipeline in Zambia. I think there's a generally held sort of idea from outside that maybe there isn't much of a pipeline opportunity in Zambia, but perhaps you could talk a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Deb, for that question. And it's good to see that you're online. So in terms of the pipeline in Zambia, I think the reality is that we have seen investments being made into Zambian businesses, which I think is a really positive thing. And obviously, even just the work that we've been doing with Impact Capital Africa, we've been able to see millions of dollars getting invested into Zambian businesses. So it means that there is some pipeline within Zambia. But I think one of the things that we are noting now is that there are a number of players, even just beyond Prospero, that are working around building pipeline. And it's quite interesting to note that these opportunities do exist. And in instances where the pipeline might not seem quite ready, there are partners on the ground that are ready to work with this pipeline. For example, we've seen a number of investor readiness programs come up. For instance, I can think of things like organizations like Growth Africa that are working on building pipeline. And obviously Prospero is one of these organizations that's been working on building pipeline. And the other organizations that are new organizations that are coming up and expanding their remit in terms of pipeline that's investable for businesses. So is there pipeline in Zambia? My answer to that would be yes, there is pipeline. Is there room to improve and develop and grow that pipeline further? My answer would also be yes, but there are definitely opportunities for investors within the Zambian landscape, even as we speak now. And so I think one of the things for investors that might be interested in Zambia is just really connecting with the right people that can also help sort of to lead them to pipeline, so to speak. And obviously there's still a lot of room even for those that are working on the ground with making sure that that pipeline is constantly being filled, and new companies are being developed and grown that can eventually raise impact investment.
Any other questions? While people are thinking, I have one.
Christian,
Go ahead, Svetlana.
Yeah, maybe about Chamomile platform. So what are you thinking about joining our platform? Like, I think it would be a great opportunity to get partners, investors, whoever you're looking for. So why not joining SIIA and Chamomile?
Yeah, thank you, Svetlana. I mean, obviously, it's great to hear about what you're doing, and definitely, I think that's something that we can look into. And now that I know about you, definitely going on your website to take a look, and hopefully we can get in touch.
Great. Hope you can join us.
Any other questions amongst the participants? If not, I have one question. Now, given the fact that Prospero are looking at, you highlighted the 5 growth sectors that you're looking at, which are food and agriculture, mining and mining services and tourism. Most of those economic activities takes place outside of Lusaka. So what is Prospero actually doing in order to reach out to those impact enterprises operating outside of the remit of Lusaka? As you know, one of the challenges that you find in many African countries is that all of the market enablers and intermediaries are concentrated in a capital. So how do you make sure that impact investing gets out to all of the 10 provinces of Zambia?
That's a really good question. So Prospero is physically based in Lusaka, but actually a lot of our work extends outside of Lusaka. In fact, we have many partners and businesses that we work with that are on the outskirts. I mean, outside of Lusaka for sure. In fact, if I think of even just the list of the partners we have, we probably touch every single province in Zambia. But in terms of impact investment, one of the things that we tried to do last year, is the other year now, I'm getting confused, is the virtual roadshow that you saw. We actually had physical roadshows, and we had these in a number of different towns. Of course, when we started with the physical roadshows, we started with the bigger towns, but prior to COVID, our intention was to actually go into many of these other provinces, talking about impact investment, because I suspect many of the businesses out there that may not be as linked to Lusaka businesses might not know a whole lot about impact investment. I mean, and I think we're strategically doing this through certain partnerships. For example, we work through chambers of commerce, where we can reach out to their business members. And I mean, like, even right now as I speak, part of the Prospero Investment Services team is on the Copperbelt and Northwestern Province, talking to businesses around impact investment and things like that. So our reach is not really limited to where our main physical offices are, but we actually spend a lot of time going out there and working with a number of businesses, both on the grant side and the impact investment side.
Thank you. I think we have just time for maybe one.
I have a question, if possible, please. It's Clive here.
Yeah, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello. My name's Clive Snook. I'm the CEO of an aviation training company here in the UK. But in November last year, we opened up an international branch in Lusaka. So we're registered with PACRA. We've got the local bank account, the tax certificate, etc. And we're looking to open a training branch down there to fill a gap in the market, which will fill the supply chain for all the other industries we've been talking about. The issues I've been having regards obtaining investment is people are quite happy to lend me $350–400 million to start a new airline, but no one seems to be that interested in the smaller amounts for us SMEs because it's, as I've been told, too much paperwork for a much smaller amount. Still a six-figure sum, but a much smaller amount. Any advice from the panelists on this one, where to go? Would Prospero be a good choice to go to? Thank you.
I mean, in the first instance, I would open this up to the rest of the panelists because I think we have a wealth of knowledge on this call. But in terms of the last bit of your question, would Prospero be some way to go? I certainly think that it would be worth having a discussion with you one-on-one offline to really understand what it is that you're trying to do and raise for, and see whether the network of investors that we work with would be the right fit for you, and if not, if there's any other place that we could refer you to in terms of you trying to raise investment. So I'll be very happy to have a more in-depth conversation, and hopefully you took note of the details there. You could just make sure that when you send an email, make sure it's attention to Namaya, and I will definitely try to set up something.
Thank you, Namaya.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, I will definitely be in touch. Thank you for that. It's much appreciated.
And one last question. Anyone?
Yeah, I've got one.
Yes, go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Innocent from UKaid Travel and Tours in Livingston. So my question goes to, I think, Prospero or just generally. So in the case where companies are looking to get this impact capital, but then they don't meet the requirements, maybe one or two requirements, is Prospero willing to work with these companies to try and see that they're investment ready or they're investment worthy? Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, I mean, without really understanding what exactly is missing, I would say yes, we are willing to work with companies that have bits and pieces missing, and I think that's really the reason that we have the investment readiness technical support. And depending on where you are, it could either be what's more relevant for you would be the one-on-one support, or it could be the more generic BDS. Particularly if, based on a conversation, we assess and see that you would be a good candidate for impact investment, and maybe just a few pieces are missing. And that's kind of like the tool that ICA has developed on the investment readiness assessment. It actually highlights some of those gaps, and that's when we can come in and sort of support with that process. So I think with the first person who asked the question, I would also say that, it would be good if you try to get in touch with us so that we could really see where you are, especially that tourism is one of our sectors. It could even be that depending on where you are, the grants bit would be more beneficial, but yeah.
Okay, as I said in the beginning, we had a fantastic number of people registering for this event, more than 120, but of course not everyone has been able to be with us for many reasons today. So there's always the opportunity to send emails to the organizing if you want to have more information about Prospero. But since we have a great turnout and most people are still with us now, are there anyone who still want to Namaya, to elaborate a little bit on what she has already shared with you today? This is your last chance. Maybe one last question, since we are here with the Swiss Impact Investing Association. I know from the last report that you have on your website on Prospero that please correct me if I'm wrong, that I think approximately 30% of the impact investors, they come from Europe. I don't know how many of those are Swiss impact investors, but we hope, at least from our side, that we have contributed to let's say spurring the interest among Swiss impact investors associations. Do you have a kind of a breakdown from the geographies? Because on your statistic, you're talking about impact investors from Africa, impact investors from Europe, and then from other parts of the world. But do you also have these statistics on a country by country basis, Amaya?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm going to put Deb on the spot a little bit for this particular question. I hope you're still on the line, but it would be great if you could sort of help out with that question.
Hi. To a certain extent, yes, we do, but it gets slightly complicated because, for example, we work with quite a lot of impact investors where maybe they're headquartered in like the Netherlands, perhaps, but they also operate out of perhaps South Africa or Nairobi. So a lot of the investors that we work with directly are based in Africa, but they are often actually either American or more likely European organizations. So actually the majority of the the organizations that we work with have roots in Europe to a certain extent, and increasingly we're seeing more interest also from East Coast America. But Europe is very well represented. And I would also like to just say that we do have in Lusaka our very own Swiss impact investor who has just set up a recent fund. So we do actually have Swiss representation already in country, and it would be great to welcome more of you.
Well, we're trying to do our best to mobilize the Swiss impact investors through this series. So hopefully you will see more Swiss impact investors in the near future. Okay. Great. Yeah, sorry.
That would be great.
Yeah, great. Okay, we come to the end, and I will ask my colleague Simone Chierici to conclude and then introduce next month's event for the participants. Over to you, Simone. I hope he's still there. Simone, can you hear me? Okay, we've gone a little bit over time, so so if Simone is not able to do that, I will conclude. Okay, but anyway, so I lost my colleague because I think we went over time, so he had another commitment. That's fine. Let me just conclude by once again thanking Namaya for this excellent presentation. Again, congratulate Prospero Zambia for the really important market building work that you're doing in Zambia. Ah, Simone, you're there. Great.
Yeah, we had network issues. Sorry everyone.
That's great. Over to you, Simone.
So thank you, Namaya, first of all, for your presentation and your answers. I personally found them very insightful. And as for everybody, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Simone. I'm currently based in Milan and I work for 4IP alongside with Christian. And I just want to say that it is awesome to see that our community is growing bigger every month. And I want to thank you personally for joining us today. Now I will briefly introduce what we are about to talk in our next meeting that will take place towards the end of March. And we will use a case study to do a diagnostic of the whole process from deal origination to execution, which typically takes 3 to 12 months. And the company we will be focusing on is Good Nature Agro. This is a for-profit social enterprise that specializes in legume value chains and uses the funds to hasten their processing infrastructure, mainly in central and eastern Zambia. And most of all, it is growing their full farm extension services for smallholders and connecting farmers to large-scale agribusinesses and food processors seeking sourcing. So it is also working on a seed breeding program. And in November 2020, it raised $2.1 million in a Series A led by Goodwill Investment with the participation from existing investors, global partnerships, and Finca Ventures. So this is the company's first disclosed deal since it was funded in 2014. And the main purpose is to allow you as participants to find answers to the following key questions that I will list. And these questions were also addressed at the recent Prospero Roadshow, more or less generally. And we want to dive into the ecosystem challenges and opportunities for investing in food and agriculture. Then we want to focus on what gets impact investors excited and how to pitch and what makes a business interesting to an investor. So we will talk about how to pitch an impact investor, such as Goodwill Investment, and maybe this is the sector that may be more interesting to you. And in the end, we will link impact. We will explain how to link impact investors and SMEs through the role of intermediaries, such as the Zambian Bongo Hives. So we look forward to engaging with you soon. And sorry for the connection issues that I had. So I will now give the floor to Hagai, presenting the Impact Investment Climate Survey that he's working on. So thank you again.
Hagai has presented, but what we want to say is please fill out the questionnaire. It's a monkey survey, so it's an online survey. So reach out to Hagai Chumbai or reach out to Prospero, which are co-sponsoring or let's say owner of this survey. So you can also reach out to Namaya. You can reach out to 4IP Group if you want to participate, I think, in this very important impact investing climate survey. So once again, thank you to everyone for your participation. It was great to see you all, and We look forward to seeing you again next month at our next Impact Investor Circle event. Thanks a lot and have a pleasant evening.